From the swamp to the stars, it's time to head to Little Timmy Senor and the UFO Report.
Nobody's gonna know.
They're gonna know.
Now, usually we start these UFO reports getting into some serious UFO topics. But this is a story that I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want to cover. I do not want to cover, but we have no choice. And sometimes, Tim, it gets like that. You know, we have talked a lot recently about this UFO group called UAPx, which, you know, we kind of had a head scratcher about them a few weeks ago when they announced that they were now charging for radio and blog interviews up to $600 for an hour of their time. Now, behind the scenes, I had said to people that I know in UMPX how ridiculous that was. But that topic doesn't even compare to what we are talking about today. And Tim, I'm going to bring you in here on this right now, because this is some very ugly news that, you know, like I said, I hate talking about this subject. I try and keep this show away from this type of subject, you know, because we get hit with garbage like this each and every day. But sometimes you have to talk about it. And tonight is one of those nights. So give us the lowdown on what happened with UAPX.
Okay, so podcasters have taken it upon themselves to do a little digging, to do a little research into the backgrounds of some of the people that UAPX have been collaborating with. And so it does look like UAPX decided to collaborate with a company called Neurontix. And the CEO and operator of this company has a somewhat checkered past. And within the details of his past are some charges of some pedophilia and some child molestation and some pretty severe charges. And some of them going up to some in the number of counts were in the double digits in the counts, I think. And that was kind of the distress. And then UAPX recently came out in support and in defense of their collaboration. And it took it upon themselves, the podcasters in our community, in particular, truth seekers, who I think did an initial interview and then followed up by Disclosure Tonight, who went into depth and doing some research and some digging. And then recently, we've had some confirmation from even insiders to go into some of the deep recesses of this case, which are starting to appear to be pretty dastardly. And so without getting into too much detail of that, I think the big focus is that UAPX definitely came out in defense of this individual, claiming that they like to support bringing felons back into the community, which I think is fantastic. Let's not dissuade any commendation for that. However, I think there are certain rules and guidelines that may assess that. And I think when it gets to kids and the trafficking and pornography and all the horrible things that go along with that, there may be a new line that we may need to examine. And I think that that is why it's being kind of alerted to our community, that UAPX came out with a recent statement even in support of their decision. And so Jeremy McGowan released a statement 4 days ago, and he named the statement "Setting the Record Straight." And so I'll just read that here briefly. So here in the United States, we society has, and so there may be some grammatical errors, and I'm just going to read it word for word. So here in the United States, we society has seen an extreme increase in both arrests and felony sentencing for our population. In 2016, over 110 million Americans had an arrest record. That is over twice as many as in 1997. roughly 2/5 of the U.S. adult population is considered a felon. UAPx Inc. knows it is extremely important to understand that each of those individuals has their own stories. Most of the time, details are private, and the reasonings behind what occurred are part of their personal journey. We may never be able to understand them. However, it is important to consider that these people seek to make amends and work towards a second chance at life. UAPx holds the ideals that the ex-convicts will still add value to society, given that they now are making efforts to change for the better and are getting their life back on track. Our justice system provides an avenue for citizens to receive punishments for crimes they committed and then return them to society after having paid the price by law and serving their time in prison through the judicial means. And so, would you like me to continue on word for word?
Yeah, do it. We're finished.
Society tends to make assumptions based on limited facts. However, the primary consideration is that we don't know the intricate details about the situation these people were in at the time of their commission of the crime. Living arrangements, mental health status, family situations, income, education, health, and other contributing factors cannot be cross-referenced by arrest status, nor does any process currently exist to show the changes, contributions, and personal growth which these individuals process through post-incarceration. The limited data that can be pulled together does indicate that felons, once released after serving time, may pay a higher long-term price for their crimes, even after the responsibilities to society are paid in full. Many data sets indicate that regardless of ethnicity, education, an ex-felon in the general population is far more likely to be out of the labor force completely than some longitudinal surveys, for example, indicate that irrespective of ethnicity or education, a working age man in the civilian non-institutional population is far more likely to be out of the labor force altogether than anyone who only has an arrest without a conviction, or someone who has no history issues with the law. So this continues on here. And so UAPx Inc. is a target of this hate attacks. And did you want me to go into detail here?
Yeah, just keep going. We're all listening to you. Don't stop.
All right, so I'll just read every word here. So this is a correlation that has a tremendous effect on the ability for ex-felons to contribute to society, considering that around every turn, adult men nowadays have a felony conviction in their past. The amount of Americans who have had trouble by law should not be a matter of indifference or intolerance to forgiving society. The vitriol and hate which are applied to companies who see past prior mistakes and evaluate the people based on their potential contributions to the advancement of society through good works and efforts is extreme. And so UAPx Inc. is a target of this hate and attacks by contingent people who seek to insert their noses into situations they do not fully understand. This is shameful and an affront to the ideals of forgiveness. The attacks are a method to achieve a destruction on both an individual as well as to separate two companies. They are heinous, disingenuous, designed to hurt, and come from the outside without the benefit of forethought or the understanding of any details. And so continuing here, take a step back and ask why these people are attacking UAPx for having a loss association with a company who maintains a CEO with a criminal past, especially when considering the punishment for the past was served and the individual is contributing member of society, engineering, advanced robotics, and the artificial intelligence applications. The most likely answer is that some of the people having a long history of issues with specific UAPx personnel are simply attempting to direct their efforts towards disruption, creation of a mob mentality, and the channeling of a cancel culture. So along with UAPx, along with companies such as Uber, participates in the United States government for Fair Chance Pledge, a program initiated back by President Barack Obama, which states that the heart of America is a nation of second chances. That's why the White House is calling on businesses and higher education institutions to invest their communities and eliminate unnecessary hiring barriers for individuals with criminal past. And so to finalize this statement, many leading companies, including some of the largest retailers and manufacturers in the company, have stepped up to lead in these efforts by providing employment opportunities through the actions like adopting the ban the box policies. And so UAPx is not alone in its willingness to give people a second chance. There are many companies who have active, published, and well-respected programs for hiring felons. Let's take a look, such as McDonald's, Starbucks, Microsoft, Coca-Cola, General Mills, Delta Airlines. There are dozens. Additionally, New York City Bar in 2008 reveals that there are laws, and the law prohibits the denying of employment on the basis of an arrest record. However, there's one primary factor that is none of the mudslingers have taken a moment to consider. UAPx Inc. hasn't hired any ex-convict or felon, though we aren't opposed to the idea as clearly stated above. The attacks upon UAPx Inc. reflect the ignorance of those people engaged in this activity of disruption and mudslinging. UAPx entered into a lawsuit agreement with a specific company for the development of a custom hardware to be used in our UAP UFO tracking and identification efforts. The company, not the individual. While that company's CEO has a history with a conviction, the work output value and ability of the company is not in question. So finally, UAPx Inc. will continue to persevere in their chosen field, a field which is rife with stigma and pushback. We are in uphill battle every day in doing what we do. These attacks upon our company do nothing but waste valuable time, energy, resources, and could be placed in uncovering the mystery of the phenomenon.
Well, my first comment on this is, why don't you do your homework on whether or not this person involved with this other company is somebody you should be associating with within the UFO community? I'm all for forgiveness. If somebody is caught, say 15 years ago with pot when it was illegal, fine. Somebody stealing food for their family, or, got in a bar fight and things went awry, fine. I'm all for forgiveness. But I don't care what anybody says. There is no forgiveness for anybody who harms a child, especially explicitly in that way. Now, the person we are talking about here, and I'm going to name him, okay, is a gentleman named Michael Joseph Berry, who is a tier 3 level criminal. Yeah. 35 years old in 2012, where his victim was 15 years old. And it's alleged that she may no longer be alive because of this incident. All right. And the charges, he pled down. But the thing is, this dude is still on the sex offender registry for life. We don't need this in the UFO community. All right? There are enough children traumatized every day in this world that we don't need this in our community. This is a stupid move on behalf of UAPx. It's a stupid move for them to be pushing this, whether it's a technological agenda or not. All right? If this is the best you can find, we don't need to associate with UAPx as Spaced Out Radio. As far as I'm concerned, they're done here. They are done. Now, I don't know, like Thomas Fessler from Disclosure Tonight did a great show on it yesterday that I saw. A fantastic show. And he brought on the former VP of UAPx, David Altman. And for people who don't know, David Altman is also an agent for Corey Feldman. And Corey Feldman, David was in tears because his best friend, Corey Feldman, has gone through this, through Hollywood, and the sickness that is there regarding the sexual exploitation of young people and minors. Dave was in tears last night. Absolute tears. This isn't a revenge thing. That's what I got from that whole report that Jeremy McGowan was stating, is that this is revenge on people who don't like UAPX, that they're firing back. How blind do you have to be to think that bringing a criminal, and I'm using my words wisely because of our terrestrial radio stations and our YouTube channel. When you bring a criminal into the fold of something of that stature, it's disgusting. And the worst part about it is it reflects on the entire community that we allow this type of person to resurrect themselves within ufology. And all it takes is one. We're going to continue with this when we return on Spaced Out Radio. I have to say a lot more about this, and I'm sure you do too as well, Tim. Yeah, it's UFO Report, little Timmy Senor, our resident Timbit. We continue with this ugly UFO news when we return on the mighty SOR. Makes me sick to my stomach, man.
It's not easy to talk about. Yeah. 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 Has to be, though. And, you know, just Dave Altman, you know, congratulations on being the strongest person I've ever met, for coming out and being strong on this, you know, because that took a lot to come forward and talk on Thomas's show. But it had to be, you know, and for other people that are looking for more information, I think, you know, the guy called in to Truth Seekers on Twitch, if you want to hear him actually try to defend himself. But the fact of the matter is that more information is coming out from absolutely reliable sources that there's no coming back from. And yeah.
I agree. And, you know, I'm grinding my teeth here.
Right. Yeah, no, and me too. And I'm hoping, and I'm pretty sure that since UAPx and SCU work so closely together, we'll get something, you know, a statement from them too, I would hope. And, you know, something just along those lines, just where they're positioned, because, you know, I'm sure the association must feel pretty sticky at this point. So everyone needs to be very clear on how they feel about that, because that's a big deal. It's a big deal. You know, some things you can get past, and some things you can't. I mean, I understand that felons deserve a second chance. There, you know, but if you're like, and also animal abuse is also in there for me, because that's pretty twisted as well. But nothing more so than, you know, hurting our children. There's no excuse. And also, let's also consider that there is no cure for what we're talking about here. And I'm not even going to say the P word, because it's a horrible word, but there's no cure for that. And so serve your time, absolutely, but there is no rehabilitation, right? Right? You can't just get a job and get a great income and then go on with your life, because now you have got an income and a source of a way to make a living. It's not like that. It's you know, I don't even think therapy, I don't think they have anything for people that are suffering from this mental illness, which is, let's be fair, I mean, it must be.
Well, I can't imagine going through that. I really can't. I mean,
But Dave, why would you connect yourself even by 3 degrees of separation with anyone that I mean, why? And why? And how could you have a conference call with someone? I just I don't know, buddy.
it just there are certain things. We'll get into more, guys. I mean, I see a bunch of questions coming up. Okay, we'll get into more here coming up when we come back from the break here.
But we
Because
do
there's no
have a
point.
UFO report too. You know, so
Well,
we won't.
we'll see if we get to it.
Okay,
We'll
let me
see
know
if we get
because
to it.
we do have stuff if it's too heavy for people. I mean, you know.
Yeah. By the way, happier topics. At 1:59 p.m. tomorrow, my daughter turns 24.
Whoa.
Yeah, man.
Wow. That's amazing,
Yeah.
buddy. Congratulations to her.
Where did time go? You know, she was 5 pounds, 13 ounces when she was born. She was 6 weeks early. And to see the beautiful young lady she's become now. Wow.
How do you have a 24-year-old? That's the thing. You've got a baby face, especially with your new haircut. You look so young. Forget about it.
I know. It's the gray that makes me look old. And we are going to cheer this up here later on. So let's just continue here for another few minutes here.
Can't believe you made me read that.
Here we go. Shh. We're out at third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've been listening to this show and you've heard most of it, you can check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We bring in Tim Senor for the UFO report. We're going over a real dirty subject, and I don't mean to downplay this at all, where a UFO group called UAPx has recently started working with a company called Neurontix. What's that company called, Tim?
You're very close. Neurotics or Neurotix, something like that. Yeah, you're close. Yeah.
And one of the big issues with this company is the fact that one of the people they're associating with is a child predator, convicted child predator, who is on the registered sex offenders list in the United States for life. I believe it comes in 3 tiers, the third tier being the worst, and he's in that worst one. And this isn't going over very well in the UFO world. It is currently trending on Twitter, and that there are a lot of people out there who are not a fan of this, nor should they be. The sad part about it is the members of UAPx are literally defending this, saying a criminal deserves a second chance. Yeah. Somebody who hurts kids does not deserve a second chance. Let's get that first and foremost. No matter what the situation, there is no oops, I'm sorry I did that. There just isn't. And there's allegedly more information about this gentleman coming out. I have not had it confirmed yet. I know Thomas Fessler on Disclosure Tonight's YouTube channel was talking about the fact that he allegedly is more involved up until 2020 regarding things to do with trafficking, allegedly. So, I mean, how do you deal with this? How does a company in the UFO world think this is a good move? I mean, Tim, you read that entire defense that Jeremy McGowan from UAPx put out. How do you write that with a straight face? Honestly, how do you write that with a straight face?
I think the only way to write that is to not have all the information on the person sitting in front of you. Because if you're informed, you wouldn't take that position, because I know he's a dad too. And also considering that allegedly, there are 10 counts or more and that it's ongoing. So you're talking to someone that isn't seeking therapy, obviously. And even if there was, I'm sure there's some sorts of therapy, but I don't believe there's a cure. And so, well, it may be a very drastic cure if there is a cure. Let's just assume castration would solve that problem. But it's just very hard to accept. And so, I mean, it's just one of those things that is going to probably, speak volumes towards their future. It also speaks volumes as to how absolutely desperate they must be for tech and gear and help, because there are so many options for this very simple piece of gimbal tech that they basically sold their soul for, which really hurts to see, because it's an easily you could replicate that. You could do a better design even. But it's just one of those things, if it's being donated, perhaps they're compelled to look past some shortcomings. I don't know. I haven't had any conversations. I can only assume by actions. But I'm a father of a large family, and I wouldn't feel comfortable working around anyone, even if it was via, a long distance. Distance doesn't make the action okay. And so I have a really hard time with this case and this whole situation. It is very hard to talk about, to be honest. So, but it needs to be, because honestly, it does kind of address the thinking of this company and where they are right now. And it does affect us in the community, because we are getting information from them. So, Dave, back to you. Where are you at with this?
Well, I'm going to read some tweets that are currently being put out
Good.
on the hashtag UAPX, because, we always want to get public reaction regarding this, and Twitter is always a good place. Here's one that from Kane's Rain. Well, it's my opinion someone convicted of, or in this case, pleaded guilty to aggravated and that kind of assault of a child should never be out of jail or alive, for that matter. Your thought process, along with those at UAPX, makes no sense whatsoever. There's a gross mockery of memes, with UAPX members standing in front of minivans with free candy painted on the side. Here's another one. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in some of the key government offices right now. Sadly, given anything government related or sponsored on UAPs includes UAPX, is going to be disappointing. Always has been. Good forces within are still trying to change, though that is good. Olo Brain says a party for the end of the world, UAPX. People are disgusted by this. Here's Doug Giles, PhD. What did you expect? Ufology and UAP, whatever, is about making money, not investigating the UFO phenomena. Hashtag UAPX. And that's what it is. This is a move about greed. It's not about moving things forward. It's about greed and what they can do to make themselves better. And it's horrible. It's horrible. It's disgusting. You have to do your homework. I once accidentally brought in somebody who I did a bunch of research on to talk about a controversial subject, and that person, within 45 minutes of this show starting, I find out is a sympathizer of a certain German group from back in World War II. Everything that I searched on the guy could not find anything, because you have to be careful. You have to do your due diligence regarding your guests, regarding people you associate with. And we don't need this in this community. We really don't. And let's hope that UAPx comes to some common sense and pressure from the public to make the right decision, the proper decision, before they hurt their own credibility even more and or hurt the UFO community's credibility even more. This is something that, we struggle on a daily basis, Tim, to try and bring people into this community. They already think we're a bunch of tinfoil hat wearing nut bars, the mainstream public. All right? They already think that we have screws loose and that we are at the bottom of the barrel of society. And now we have to deal with something like this. If you are registered for that kind of crime, like you said, Tim, there is no turning back. I'm all about forgiveness. Okay? I am all about forgiveness and giving criminals a second chance once they paid their dues. But you know what? There's a caveat to everything. And harming a child in one sort of way or another does not register on my list as somebody needing sympathy or a second chance. Not at all. And I know the UFO community, if I know them well enough, okay, they're not going to stand for it either. They are not going to stand for it. And we should be thankful for that. This is where you talk.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you wanted to go on to the next, but yeah.
Well, we are going to, but in radio, it still works better when you talk.
It does. Okay, bud. Well, you know what? I totally just kind of agree with you on this. It needs to be one of those things where hopefully the next few words we hear out of their mouth is that, oh, we didn't know. That would be great. Right. If they didn't have all the information before they decided to come out with this. Now, unfortunately, I think you and I both know that there's some pretty high rollers within some of these companies that probably have access to such things as records, so they probably do have all the information.
And I don't believe that if UAPx was called in for anything to do with the government, that because of their ties to this person, whether he's a contractor or a friend or not, I don't think that they could associate with him and get an NDA.
I think you may have a great point there.
I'm not sure about that. I don't know how I don't know how it works with that. I'm not in the government, but all right, let's move on here. Let's go, because I have a real important story to get to here later on here in the show.
Okay.
A former director of national intelligence undermines the effort to downplay unusual UFO cases. What's going on here?
Yeah, exactly. And so on Sunday, the 15th of January, whilst appearing on Fox, former United States Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe sensationally commented on the UAP and represented himself this way in a quote, saying that objects that demonstrate technologies that seem to defy the law of physics and capabilities that we don't have as the world's superpower. And he added, our role in the federal government is to provide for the common defense. And we can't do that if someone else has technologies that are better than what we have. And so furthering that, in these comments that were made in response to a question about the U.S. government's new UAP report, which highlighted 247 UAPs reported since just last June in 2021's preliminary assessment report. And so there were another 119 reports either discovered or reported that fell within the original 17-year period. but were not included in the preliminary assessment. And so, according to the report, that brings the total number to 366. And so the 366 number support claims that made by the Office of the Director, or the ODNI source rather, provided to Daily Mail reporter Josh Boswell with this exact number of additional cases in October of 2022, when the report initially was expected. So the new report, which was eventually released on the 12th of January, provides no details on the unusual characteristics, rather, no details. And so we know nothing about any of the characteristics demonstrated by the UAP, which are included in the 171 uncharacterized, unattributed UAP reports. And so him coming forward with this shows that there's tons of unclassified and classified videos that are profound and pretty clear. And in his quote, he continues to say that they don't want to talk about this stuff because they really, really just don't know what they are. And that's the truth. So how does that make you feel, knowing that the ex-director is coming forward so blatantly and claiming that there's so many unusual cases demonstrating technologies that seem to defy the laws of physics?
Well, I think it's nice for him to come out and tell us everything that we already know. I mean, look, until it comes out what the U.S. government really has, we're going to get these people coming out. Gee, I didn't know really what was going on. This is all a surprise to me. Oh my gosh, could you believe this? I don't believe it for a second. I don't believe it for a second. There are people in the know. All right. There are people in the know.
Yeah. And also when he was actually quoted, I think the reporters actually asked him directly if he had any direct knowledge of the existence of aliens. And it almost seemed kind of canned how he responded with, well, if I did know, I wouldn't be able to comment on it. That very canned response, but it seemed as if he was even pretending to have to think about it, which is so frustrating to see because it just airs to the lines of lies. If you're even having to fake a response, it's just icky.
It is. It is. But you know what? It just goes to show, and you know what? He actually may be telling the truth here. He may not have been read in. This may be all a big surprise to him. I mean, we really don't know. Do I believe it? No. I believe that these people, when you get to that position, they may not tell you everything, but they tell you a lot.
Right, but even
Okay.
Secretary of Defense Ronald Moultrie denied transmedium activity had credibly been reported, commenting, saying, "We have not, to the best of my knowledge, had any credible reporting that we've been able to analyze of transmedium activity or transmedium objects. But we have the 2019 US Navy film of the spherical object that Jeremy Corbell released going down into the ocean," which I would assume that Moultrie had access to and had seen. So it seems deceptive, does it not?
Well, it always does. Look, you can't trust them. Remember, we got a narrative going on here, Tim. We got to remind the public we got a narrative going on here. And as long as that narrative is in play, there is no way, no shape, no how that we are going to be able to get what we need for information regarding this subject. Somebody knows, okay? Somebody is in the know. We need to figure out who. We need to figure out why, because the one thing that we can only guarantee through this entire thing, Tim, is that they're not going to tell the public about it. Not at all. And on that note, I want to show you something here, Tim. And hopefully our audience will be able to hear this. Okay? Because everybody knows every now and again we have a gentleman come in named Ovni Volador. Right? I've actually been accused of being this Ovni Volador guy. I'm not him. Not me whatsoever. Okay? But here's the thing. Ovni Volador, as you know, he's a little bit of a mouthpiece. So, as you know, we got our Vegas event going on. And this professional wrestler named Navajo Warrior had some pretty insulting things to say about Ovni Volador.
This is the Navajo Warrior, and I'm laying the challenge down right now to Ovni Volador. You and I, inside a steel cage. Let's call it the Area 51 match of doom. 15-foot high steel cage, tethered together by a 15-foot long leather strap. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. You and me, one-on-one. Let's do this. This is the Navajo Warrior.
What do you do with that? What do you do with that?
Well, you can't run from it. Whoever,
I hope that
Yeah.
Navajo Warrior. I've done some research on him. Okay, I've done some research. You know, he bench presses close to 700 pounds. Okay, this is a guy.
What can Ovni bench press? Where's Ovni with that?
I don't know. I've never seen his training regiment. Okay, but all I'm saying is this Navajo Warrior, even though he can bench press like 700 pounds, even though he could probably deadlift about 1,100 pounds or 1,000 pounds, whatever it may be, all right, I can tell you this. I've seen Ovni Volador because he's attacked me every now and again. I really, truly believe the Navajo Warrior does not know what he's getting into. It's scary. It is scary. And then he wants to have a strap match with a 15-foot leather strap? How do you defend yourself against Psycho in the squared circle? Power is one thing, but mentally unstable for Ovni Volador, that's another. I have a feeling that Ovni Volador is literally going to respond to this. One way or another, he's going to respond.
Wouldn't doubt it.
And I'm scared. I'm scared.
Yeah.
Literally, I am scared.
Blood in the ring.
I think Navajo Warrior and his beautiful bride, Crazy Hot Morgan, I think they bit off more than they could chew here. I really do.
He seems like a nice guy. I mean, it's not what you wanted to hear, is it?
Well, hey, I'm gonna be in Navajo Warrior's corner. I'm just afraid for him. That's all.
Yeah. He seems
Tim,
great.
Thank you for a great UFO report.
It's been fun.
Really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you to Swamp Dweller for coming on in, telling us a great story. And, of course, to Canadian UFO legend Chris Rakowski for his great information on UFOs in the Great White North. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, the Space Travelers Club, LinkedIn, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
Don't make a mistake.
We're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the room train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.